Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Indiana State Police Roadshow. I'm your host, Sergeant John Perrine, the Public Information Officer for the Indiana State Police Indianapolis District. The Roadshow is brought to you each and every week by the Indiana State Police Alliance and Cops for Kids, a subsidiary of the State Police Alliance. For more information about our sponsor, you can visit them at www.indianasfinest.com. We do want to mention that our Indiana Capitol Police is now hiring. If you have a desire to be a sworn law enforcement officer and you're looking for a job, for the next 2 weeks, our Indiana Capitol Police is hiring, and we would like you to visit the website, www.in.gov/ISP, for more information about that. Now, my very distinguished guest today, longtime friend, 28-year veteran of the Indiana State Police, Sergeant Dennis Scudder.
Good afternoon.
Sergeant, welcome. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
And, you know, it's a bittersweet show that we're going to do because we're going to miss you, but Sergeant Scudder is retiring. So we're going to take you all the way through it.
Okay.
And I know a little bit more about you because we've been friends for a little while, that you've never lived a life without police presence, right?
No, that's
Grandfather,
true.
father, you.
Yes.
So take us back to the young Dennis Scudder days, and what was it like to be the son of an Indiana State Trooper?
Well, we were down, I grew up in Switzerland County, which is very, very rural. And it was really interesting because the way people viewed police work was the traditional view, because people really respected people, or police officers back then. So it was a real different feel than what we experience today. And
you were always known as the police officer's kid.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Everybody in a small community knew who you were. They knew who your dad was.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a sign you hung around your neck.
But even before that, Dennis is a son of a retired and the late John Scudder, who was the first sergeant at the Versailles post for many, many years.
Yes.
But also, your grandfather was a sheriff in Switzerland County.
Yes, that's true.
So it was in your blood.
Well, I never actually remember, because I believe by the time I was born, he was already retired from the sheriff's department. So I never got to actually see that, but I got to hear them talk about it quite a bit. And he actually still had the car as I was a kid that apparently he drove when he was a sheriff.
Wow. And so you grew up around law enforcement, helping Dad clean his cars and get ready for inspection, and seeing the uniform, and and it was all really familiar to you. But you graduated high school, went on to college to the University of Indianapolis.
Yes.
And police work wasn't really your first avenue after college.
No, it just kind of hovered around in the back of my head, because at that point I couldn't actually qualify because of my vision, because I wore glasses. And until the American with Disability Act, and I believe it was early 1993, I wasn't even qualified. So it really wasn't an option for me.
And then as soon as that came through, you said, I want to be an Indiana State Trooper, and you got in just in the nick of the time. You were one of the older of your class.
Yes. I think there were two officers that were a few months older than me.
And anybody familiar, we got a lot of retirees that listen to our show. Dennis is a proud member of the 50th recruit class.
Yes, the 50th. That's correct.
And a lot of people chuckle when we say 50th, but there are a lot of good people that came from that class as well, yourself included.
Yes.
And so you get through the academy, and you said, I think I want to go back home. So they send you to Indianapolis.
Yeah. Well, I had decided that my wife and I had both worked for the state of Indiana before I got onto the state police, and we already had a house, and we decided we wanted to stay. And then I actually didn't really want to go and feel like I was in my dad's shadow or have that cast on me, because he cast a big shadow. He had big shoes to fill, and I wanted to make it on my own. And
was your dad still active when you came on?
No, he actually retired in 1983, and then I didn't get on until 1993.
Okay. So you start your career here in Indianapolis, and young Dennis Scudder finishes field training the 3 months after you get out of the academy.
Yes.
Do you remember your first traffic stop?
No, I don't.
You don't?
No, I don't.
There's been too many between now and then, huh?
There's been a few in between.
Do you remember your first arrest?
Not even sure I can remember that.
Yeah,
I can remember some arrests through the years that you wouldn't think you would remember.
Yeah.
I remember I had one probably when I was 4 or 5 years on that me and one of my classmates made right in the middle of downtown Indianapolis. And it was a really interesting arrest. And he and I had forgotten about it because we thought that the person had been dismissed or they made a plea agreement. I could never find it. And it was about 5 or 6 years ago that I got a call from the prosecutor's office that they still had the warrant on him and they'd gotten him.
Wow.
And they called, and I got a chuckle because when I talked to the prosecutor, she was so pleased when I told her. I said, I could give you a deposition right now without notes because I remember it that well. She goes, "Good Lord, I was just happy that you two were still alive," referring to the other trooper.
That's pretty cool. So talk about what it was like to be a young trooper at the Indianapolis district in the early 90s, because the technology wasn't here. You didn't have computers and phones and all these things. So talk about what it was like for a young trooper then.
It was much different. My first car, I had a radio and my light control box and a siren box. All
not
three
even
were
a
separate.
radar, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
My first radar, when I finally got one, was a K55.
Yeah.
The one that's in the museum.
Yeah, and a lot of the retirees are chuckling now.
Yes.
But you know what? I came on in 2003, and my first radar was a K55.
I actually got them to make a little bent aluminum thing that I could hang it on my visor on the passenger side and shoot it through the back window.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, very, very cool. A lot of creative things happened back then with that equipment. You spend most of your career, your entire career at the Indianapolis district.
Yes.
But you've done so many different things. So
yes.
Talk about kind of what was the first specialty that you kind of got interested in?
Well, pretty much the first day when we walked through the door, they were already handing out the tip gear. It was tip back then. Now it's mobile field force.
And that's riot squad. Tactical intervention platoon is what TIP stands for. Now it's called mobile field force.
Yes, it's essentially the same thing, only now we're much better equipped, and the training is standardized throughout the entire country. Mm-hmm. We get our training through the federal government, through Homeland Security. Many of our officers will actually go to Anniston, Georgia, where they have the Homeland Security training on an old Army base.
And have you been through that training?
Yes, I've actually been through the Mobile Field Force standard training twice.
Wow.
I guess I was a slow learner.
So you served in that capacity for a long time, and that eventually led you to team leader positions.
Yes, as a squad leader, yes.
Yeah. So you spent, again, most of your road career at the Indianapolis district, and then decided it was time for something different, and you took a promotion to corporal in 2011?
I think that's what I saw.
Okay.
Yes, and then
that was pretty short-lived because
about 14 months.
Because an opportunity came along for you to put in for squad sergeant, and you were selected through the process and became a supervisor. So talk about. I'd like to talk about some of the challenges of being a good supervisor over the years you've had, and some of the rewarding experiences you've had as well.
Well, I've had a lot of really good troopers, and it's been particularly interesting because I'm, in addition to all the other duties I did, I was the FTOC. So I would have the first contact with new troopers coming through, and then would eventually get at least one or two in my squad. So it was really enjoyable to watch their career path and watch them as they grew as officers. And it was very rewarding because there's been some really good officers that have come through the doors in Indianapolis. Yeah, it felt like I get to be a part of it.
Yeah, and that is a neat thing because young troopers, when they come through, it's very overwhelming. I mean, I remember how overwhelming it is. And to have somebody like yourself who's kind of that mentor, that calming voice, that demeanor that they can go to and say, hey, I've got an issue. Mm-hmm. Those relationships flourish, and especially if they become somebody in your squad. But even if they're not in their squad, they're always going to look to you as that mentor that helped them get through those
Well,
months.
One of the things I always tell them when they come in is that my job never quit just because they went on or they got out of the FTO. I said, you're not much of a leader if you're not always available to give, the benefit of your knowledge. So I felt like it was a never-ending part. I mean, that's just what I felt was part of the job.
Yeah.
So I never quit. I didn't care how old you've been or how long you were there. If I had the ability to help you with something, then that was my job.
Yeah. So you've made your home in Shelbyville and spent a lot of time patrolling Shelbyville, supervising troopers in Shelbyville. Talk about how important it was throughout your career to have those valuable relationships with other agencies in the area that you lived.
Even though I enjoyed being a supervisor, probably the best part of my career was about the 10 years that I patrolled in Shelby County because I just enjoyed it so much. A lot of it was spent on midnight, so I really didn't have much contact for a lot of time, or quite a bit of that time, with anybody other than the sheriff's department and then the city as well. But because I was the only trooper probably within 50 square miles at least.
Yeah.
So it was just great. It was just another opportunity to work with the different police officers, and I thought the world of them. I thought they were great people. Yeah. Still do.
Yep. And again, I've known you for a while, and I don't know that retiring right now was in the cards, but a few things fell into place for you, and another opportunity. And again, 28 years is a long time, and you've seen a lot of changes in this department.
I laughed because one of the very last persons that I FTO'd, when he got in my car that last week, they actually switch over their computers. So he brought in his computer and he set it in my car and was setting it up so that it would recognize my printer. So it was taking him a little time, and I started to chuckle, and I said, "Do you know what I did that very last week, to get ready when I was with my FTO?" And he looks at me, and he said, "No." And I said, "I turned on the ignition."
It didn't take all that effort.
Yeah, there was no computer. I can't even remember if that FTO had a radar or Vascar. I'm assuming he had one of those.
Yeah.
But yeah, I couldn't even tell you.
And it was low band radio. It was a big whip antenna.
Well, we actually when I came on, we had both here in Indianapolis.
Okay.
We had the 800, and I was lucky. I got one of the Sabre radios, which is a really nice.
You didn't have the brick.
I did not have the brick.
Those that know, right?
Yeah, I felt really lucky to get the Sabre, and but we had the low band at the same time, so we actually had both radios.
Yeah. So, and also recently, you talk about that law enforcement is often a family career.
Mm-hmm.
Your grandfather, father, and then your daughter started working for the Indiana State Police.
Right.
So, your last couple of years here at the post, you come in for a visit at the post, and there she is.
Yes.
Working different jobs. What does that mean to you?
That was very neat. I was kind of relieved that she chose not to go to be a trooper. I was glad that didn't happen. It's okay with me to be the last one. And I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but both of my cousins were conservation officers as well.
Yeah.
2 of my cousins. So, yeah.
That's kind of common, right? Once it's in the family,
right.
It's in the family.
It's not that unusual.
And it is. So we've got about three minutes left. Is there any people along the way that really just stood out to you like, I really want to thank that person for where I am today?
Absolutely. Of course, my FTO, he reminded me a little bit of the kind of things that I tried to exhibit. I tried to never, lose my temper or just be very calm demeanor with the people on the department that I worked with. Not necessarily the public, but with the people that I worked with. And that was Trooper Mark Mercer. And then one of my squad sergeants, I actually had 2 really exceptional squad sergeants, Gary Miller and Lieutenant Jeff Payne. Yeah. And all those folks were just exceptional people.
Yeah, and again, we all need those people through our career to help us, mentor us, teach us.
Absolutely.
And I think looking back on your career, you're going to be that person for a lot of people. And I think that's probably one of the most rewarding things.
It is for me. It is for me. I hope that at least one person feels that way.
Well, I know your squad loves you because they like to talk about you.
Yeah, they give me a lot of grief.
Yeah, I've heard something about a Scudder news network.
Yes, and
that they like to get a group text going and talk about you and with you and have a good time.
Yes, I sent something to them and remarked on how much activity was on that text string this morning.
Yeah, I think they're all good people, and I know you guys had a good time, and I know you'll be missed by them, and you'll be missed by us at the district as well.
I definitely will miss the people. Yeah. Not necessarily all the job parts, but absolutely miss people.
Yeah, and so what advice, we've got 1 minute. You got a brand new trooper walking out of the academy right now, and you could look at him and give him one piece of advice, what it would be.
It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Don't overwhelm yourself, because Indianapolis can be overwhelming on its own. So try to just hang in there and don't feel like you have to do your entire career in 5 minutes, because you got a long way to go. Now, it goes much quicker. I never really imagined setting on this side of it, but enjoy the whole ride, because it's a long journey, and things really change. Yeah, really change.
Yeah. Well, Dennis, I want to thank you for your dedicated service to the state and your friendship and your mentorship and everything that you had at our district, and we sure appreciate you. We're going to miss you. I know you're not going far, and we're anxious to see what the next step is for you, but thanks for coming in.
Appreciate that.
Thanks for your career, and it's over. What was your end date?
I think it was the 14th.
The 14th, yeah. Right? So Dennis is officially retired. Sometimes we try to do these shows before, but
took me a second to remember.
Didn't get this one. So Sergeant Dennis Scudder, retired Indiana State Trooper. We want to thank you for coming on. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
We will talk to you soon.
Thank you.